Hello, Christopher L. I know this is a bit of a touchy subject, but I feel compelled to respond. And you seem like a nice and well-meaning guy, so I will try to be as respectful as possible. So let's get started.
But the fact of the matter is, when God decided to make Adam a helper, he really didn't make another guy. He didn't make Adam and Steve. He made Adam and Eve. And the point I'm getting at here is, if God didn't care, he would have made us asexual or unisexual, where we wouldn't need an opposite sex to procreate.
Okay, about Adam and Eve being created for each other. I am going to provide a link to a video by Archbishop Lazar from the Orthodox Church in Canada. He mentions in this video, and he's a very committed Christian, he's an abbot of an Orthodox Christian monastery. He admits that evolution is a fact and that homosexuality is something that people are born with. It's not something that they acquire afterwards. And if you're willing to carefully look at these facts, yes, they have been supported by enough scientific evidence. It requires you to change the way you think about things, particularly the idea that Adam and Eve were created, not Adam and Steve. Now, the differences in sexual orientation, they occur naturally. It's just something that happens. It's something that is different, yes, but that doesn't necessarily make it evil or somehow falling short of an ideal. The question of why two sexes exist, sexual reproduction evolved over time and it settled on two sexes. That's why things are the way they are. It's not a storybook ideal. While Archbishop Lazar is able to recognize the science that people who are homosexual are born that way, the Orthodox Church is not able to change their position on the legitimization of gay relationships. That's just not something that they're going to be able to do. Similar to the Catholic Church, they have a dogma which they're not going to be able to change. That's just the way things are, because the way things are set up, they can't admit that they were wrong about this. But there are other Christian denominations in the United States, which are beginning to recognize that they have been wrong about this, and they are willing to change their beliefs and practices regarding it. For example, the Episcopal Church, the United Church of Christ, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, and probably pretty soon the United Methodist Church and the Presbyterian Church USA are probably all going to eventually recognize that homosexuality is something that occurs naturally and that it is okay to recognize such relationships.
If you're a homosexual and you're struggling to get out of it, Jesus Christ is the answer. He can lead you out of the life that you're leading. There are Christians who were homosexual who he has already led out of homosexuality, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to help you.
About Christians who left homosexuality, I'm sure that they're in Christian denominations where they have to keep this under wraps, even if they've gone through, ex-gay rehabilitation programs and so forth. But if they weren't under any religious pressure and they were able to speak truly honestly about the way things really are, I'm pretty sure, almost certain, that they would admit that their feelings have not changed and that the only thing that's happened is that they've learned how to suppress them. Suppressing feelings is not the same as changing them. If we are willing to accept our model of reality changing through the discoveries of science, it gives reason to examine the reasoning given by Paul for some different opinions that he makes in his writings. Not just regarding homosexuality, but also if we are going to take the traditional creation model, there is something in 1 Corinthians 11 that you cannot get around. If you accept his reasoning, you must accept this. You can try to dance around it, you can try to pretend that it's not there, but it is there. This is in 1 Corinthians 11, verses 2 through 16. I commend you because you remember me in everything and maintain the traditions just as I handed them on to you. But I want you to understand that Christ is the head of every man, and the husband is the head of his wife, and God is the head of Christ. Any man who prays or prophesies with something on his head disgraces his head. But any woman who prays or prophesies with her head unveiled disgraces her head. It is one and the same thing as having her head shaved. For if a woman will not veil herself, then she should cut off her hair. But if it is disgraceful for a woman to have her hair cut off or to be shaved, she should wear a veil. For a man ought not to have his head veiled, since he is the image and reflection of God, but woman is the reflection of man. Indeed, man was not made from woman, but woman from man. Neither was man created for the sake of woman, but woman for the sake of man. For this reason, a woman ought to have a symbol of authority on her head because of the angels. Nevertheless, in the Lord, woman is not independent of man, or man independent of woman. For just as woman came from man, so man comes from a woman, but all things come from God. Judge for yourselves. Is it proper for a woman to pray to God with her head unveiled? Does not nature itself teach you that if a man wears long hair, it is degrading to him? But if a woman has long hair, it is her glory, for her hair is given to her for a covering. But if anyone is disposed to be contentious, we have no such custom, nor do the churches of God. So if you are going to accept the traditional creation model that man was created first and that woman was created from man, you have to agree with Paul's reasoning that women in church must wear a veil and men are not allowed to have long hair. These things are considered disgraceful by Paul because of the reasoning that he's given in here. If you accept the traditional creation model, which Paul does, you must accept this. He even says at the end of this passage, if anyone is disposed to be contentious, we have no such custom. He's saying that if you don't like what I'm telling you, that is too bad. There's no way to get around this without being disingenuous or recognizing that possibly Paul's reasoning here was based on his model of reality, and our model of reality has been changed based on scientific discovery, and these things may need to be re-evaluated.